What you saying, ladies and gents? It is your boy Cat Sam, and we are back again today for another video. Today's video, I'm going to be going through the England World Cup squad and ranking their performances, ranking their tournaments, and we're going to do a system out of 10. And we're going to start off with the goalkeepers, going straight in with, obviously, Jordan Pickford. And the players, by the way, that haven't got any minutes, we're just going to give them an NA, because it's unfair, isn't it, really, to give them any score. So we're going to start off with Jordan Pickford. Overall, I think he had a confident. I think the main thing with Jordan Pickford is his confidence, and I'd say he's had a strong tournament, bar the final game and in the important moments. And I'll probably get into parts and talk about parts of the France game, but I feel as if he should have done better with that first goal, and it's kind of still eating away at me. Tchouaméni, it's a great strike, don't get me wrong, but an international goalkeeper for one of the best nations in the quarter-final of a World Cup should not be getting beaten from 25 yards. Especially, yes, I get it, it went through one player, but he still should have got over to it. I thought he was really slow to react. So, mark him down for that, because the thing is with these players, and we're going to discuss, on an international basis, these are the big moments that actually count. Like, he made a good couple of saves against Senegal, he made a couple of good saves against America, but in the big tournaments, in tournament football, it's little moments like this that change everything. So I'm going to have to mark him down slightly for that. I'm going to say overall in this tournament, I'm going to give him a solid 7 out of 10. We're obviously not going to talk about Nick Pope, and we're not going to talk about Ramsdale. Move straight on. We're not going to talk about Trent. We're not going to talk about Connor Cody. Eric Dyer, his bit part tournament, didn't really play much minutes, so I'll have to give him a 5. I know it's probably a bit harsh, but I'm going to just brush past those kind of players. Next, we'll talk about Harry Maguire, and this is similar to the Pickford situation. I think overall in the tournament, I think everyone's getting a little bit ahead of themselves, and I think everyone's talking about how amazing he's been. For me, he's been okay. I think he had an average tournament. He was at fault for that second goal against France, and that's another thing. He was caught lacking. Judge lapse in concentration. He switched off for a second, and you can't allow players like Giroud and other these players to have that kind of space. And this is the thing I talk about: big moments in a World Cup that literally define the entire tournament, and he is at fault for the biggest moment of the tournament. Allowed that second goal to go in for us to get knocked out. Everyone's pointing the blame at Harry Kane, but really, fingers should be pointed at Harry Maguire, Jordan Pickford. Overall, he had a good tournament, but he was also at fault for the goal against Iran. We didn't concede many goals in this tournament, and 2 of them were Harry Maguire's fault. The second goal against Iran, the first goal against Iran, it was again a lapse in judgment. Caught lacking, allowed his man to go past him. But other than that, he had an okay tournament. I'm probably going to have to give him a 6.5 out of 10. But overall, I do feel like, purely because I think when we look at this England squad, don't get me wrong, I love John Stones, and we'll get onto him in a second, but I feel like this is probably the weakest position as centre-half. So I think if we're going to really progress in the future, I think we really need to upgrade these and try and get some of players like Tomori, maybe even Ben White, some of these kind of players through, and get them some more game time, because Harry Maguire shouldn't really be wearing an England shirt. Next, I want to talk about Luke Shaw. Overall, not the best of tournaments. I think he struggled, especially against France. Really struggled against France, but he just didn't really light it up like we expected him to. Obviously, he worked really well in the Euros back and at the World Cup when we were playing a 5-back system. I think it allowed him to flourish more. Whereas in the 4-back, he's going to be hurt a lot more. Defensive-wise, he has to be a bit more resolute. So when he bombs on forward, it leaves us a bit more vulnerable. And you saw against Ousmane Dembélé, he kind of really struggled. So overall, I'm going to probably give Luke Shaw a 6. Next, we're going to talk about John Stones. John Stones, for me, was England's player of the tournament. Yes, you heard me. I honestly believe this. I think he was absolutely integral to everything that was good about us. I thought he was so good, so confident on the ball. And every time we were trying to pass out from the back, it always came through John Stones. No mistakes, resolute, and he was the reason why we conceded so little amount of goals in this tournament. I really, really liked him. I'm going to give John Stones a 9 out of 10. And for me, he has to be the first name on the team sheet. And I know that's a bit of a rogue shout, because he didn't steal headlines like your players like Jude Bellingham and your Harry Kanes, your Sakas and players like that. I really liked him. Next, we'll talk about Kieran Trippier. Really disappointed with his tournament, if I'm honest. He played in the first couple of games, and I wasn't impressed at all. I thought he really, really struggled. Don't know what it was. Don't know whether it's because in Newcastle he's the main man. I can't put my finger on it. Just did not seem to work out. It just seemed a bit slow on the ball. Didn't really. It looked like he shouldn't have been in that side. When you looked at the rest of the players and how well they were playing, he was the only player who looked a bit out of place. So I'm going to have to give Kieran Trippier a 5 out of 10. A little bit disappointed because he did so well. He was creating so many chances down that right. If you look at the graphics and go and do a bit of research about the most chances created from each position, he's created the most out of chances down that right-hand side. Bearing in mind we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in that squad, and Trippier's creating more, but he didn't do it for England for some reason. I don't know if it was because he wasn't allowed to go on forward, he didn't have the kind of the attacking licence he does for Newcastle, but for me, don't think he had a great tournament. Next, we'll talk about Kyle Walker. One of the best players in the tournament for us. Again, another one of those kind of players that you just know what you're going to get from him. He pocketed Mbappe. I know a lot of people say we lost the game, but his job was to keep Mbappe quiet, and he kept Mbappe quiet. Bar one run, Mbappe did absolutely nothing. And I think that's the reason why Mbappe laughed and everyone's going on about it. I think he laughed because he was frustrated. He wasn't allowed any chance to really get on the ball and do anything in this game. So Kyle Walker, for me, absolutely huge tournament. 8.5 out of 10. Very solid performance from him, especially with the fact he hasn't even been fit. There was question marks. So fair play to him. Next, talk about Ben White. Can't give him a rating because he didn't really play. Next, talk about Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham, another one of those players that for me had an absolutely great tournament. I just absolutely love him. I love his tenacity. I love the fact he's driving runs. He was so good for this England side. I think he set the standard for the players, like constantly setting the tempo, winning back challenges, and a couple of games when the going was getting tough, like against Senegal, I think was a prime example. Now, first half an hour, we allowed Senegal kind of to get onto us, and he set that first tackle for that goal when he won the ball back, driving runs. It just sets the tempo, it lifts the rest of the team. There's something about things like that. It then picks the rest of the team up. Thought he had a really good tournament. I'm also going to give him a 9 out of 10. Very solid. Probably most likely we'll see him making a move to the Premier League or even Real Madrid or somebody like that. He deserves it. Absolutely great tournament. Really solid, and I can't get my head around how young he actually is. By the way, if you haven't already, please do smash the like button and do subscribe. Next, talk about Conor Gallagher. Didn't really get any minutes, so we're going to move on past him. Jordan Henderson now. And this one is bizarre. A player that a lot of people argued whether he should have even been in the squad. My position, my thoughts was, I thought he should have made the squad, but I didn't think he was going to get many minutes. But do you know what? He shut me up against, I think it was the first game against USA. I thought he had a bit of a shocker. Really struggled to get up to pace. But then in Wales game, I thought he was absolutely class. I also thought then, moving against Senegal, I thought he was really good. And in that France game, I thought again he was great. Senegal especially, he was great, by the way. I just thought he was really good. I've just said great about 5 times. Apologies. That's how good he was. Just surprised me because you kind of know what you're going to get with him. And as a midfield 3, I thought he offered more than when Mount was on the pitch because it allowed Jude Bellingham to go on forward. It helped Declan Rice. He covered on that right-hand side with Kyle Walker and allowing Saka to stay further up on the pitch. I just thought he had a really good tournament. Really solid player. So because of his performance against USA, we'll mark him down slightly, but I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. Very solid performance and a great leader, isn't he? Next, talk about Mason Mount. And I think it's really difficult on Mason Mount. I'm one of these people who I'm trying to give him more time, and I thought he came on against France, won us the penalty, helped us a bit, but bar that, I'm still not sure what he did this tournament, and I try not to use him as a scapegoat because a lot of the media have done, a lot of people have pointed the blame at him. I don't think it's his fault. I just don't understand. I don't feel like he's being utilised in the right system. He's been brought on in the wrong moments. I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work with this Gareth Southgate system, so for no fault of his own, like I feel really bad giving him this, but I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. One of the worst performers of the tournament. I feel being harsh because of what I've just said, but I just don't know what it is. I don't think it's his fault. I just don't think he suits the system because you look at him when he plays for Chelsea, he's not playing in the same role. That's what I just don't understand how he works and fits into the system. Calvin Phillips played a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to give him a rating because I just think he's not played enough to really give him a rating. Declan Rice. Now, for me, he has cemented himself as one of the best holding midfielders on the planet, by the way. I thought he was so good in this tournament. It's just the little things. He breaks at play. But before, when we spoke about him breaking at play, he'd then pass it out to the fullbacks or he'd pass it backwards. Whereas in this tournament, we saw him going on forwards, driving with the ball, passing it on, making those killer passes that cut defences open. Because you see it with players like Sergio Busquets, other Kimmich, Rodri, all of these holding midfielders, we've seen them do it for years, whereas we've never seen Declan Rice do it, and I felt like, especially in that France game, I thought he stood out. I thought he was absolutely class. Bearing in mind, he's coming up against players like Tchouaméni, and players that are considered some of the world's best, and I thought he held his own, and especially in that France game, I thought he was by far the best player on the pitch. So I thought he had a great tournament. I'm also going to give him a 9 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, I've given 3 players so far a 9 out of 10, but I still think John Stone's best player of the tournament. But Declan Rice, what a performance. He needs to move on to a better squad. Now we're going to talk about the attackers. Now where it gets a bit more interesting. Next, we're going to talk about Phil Foden. Now, this is a really intriguing and interesting one. And he splits a lot of fans down the middle, I find. He's one of those players that, for me, isn't being utilised in the right position. I prefer him in the number 10. We saw him come on against, in the first game against Iran when he played in that number 10. When he got moved over, I thought he was so much better down that side. But then he offers something different when he plays in this squad. And that's what I like about him. Just again, it's a similar situation to the Mount situation. I just don't feel like he's really suited to this system. But I thought he had an okay tournament. Didn't really set the world alight. Potentially Rashford should have played over him at points. Like there's interesting discussion points with him. He's technically gifted. But some points you think you need a bit more pace going down the wings, offer something different. Overall, I thought he had an okay tournament. Nothing special, but a solid tournament because he did get himself a goal. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Now on to Jack Grealish. And no fault of his own, I'm going to go straight in and say I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. again, and it's similar to the situations that we've spoken about with Mount and with Foden. Not utilising the right moments, not being used as a sub when he needs to be. Like, prime example against France, brought on for 45 seconds when you need a goal. You know exactly what you're going to get with him. I just don't understand what's going on. And this is where my problems lie with Southgate. I don't understand a lot of the time what's going through his thought process, like what he's trying to do. I can't see what he's trying to do and understand the decisions, because he's the kind of player that can drive with the ball, take players out of position and create space for others. But he just wasn't utilising that. So no fault of his own. I'm going to have to give him a 5 out of 10 because I don't think he really did much, let's be honest. He got himself a goal, but other than that, nothing really. Now on to Harry Kane. And I thought he had a great tournament. I know, obviously, people are going to point the blame at him and think about that penalty he missed, call him a bottler and things like that. But bar that, the rest of the tournament was great. Obviously, I'm going to have to mark him down for that, and I feel really harsh. He still had a great tournament. I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10 because he just allows kind of players. He allowed Saka's, your Fodens, your Grealishes, your Rashfords to all bomb on forward because he comes in deep, it creates space, brings the centre-backs forward and creates all that space in behind. And we saw we utilise that so often. So I think he had a great tournament. It's just a shame that he let us down in that final moment. So 8.5 out of 10. Very, very solid tournament. And he just offers so much more than goals. That's what I love. Most assists. Oh, some great performances. Just a real shame when you're looking at the squad and realising we're out of the tournament. Next, come out Maddison. Real shame he wasn't used or utilised. So I can't give him a rating. Just feel like he really should have got some minutes. Next, we'll talk about Rashford. Now, this one is a real sticky one because he had a great tournament, but for the minutes he played, he wasn't used enough in my opinion. He really should have had loads more minutes because he was scoring goals for fun. Like, it just baffles me how many minutes he actually got. You think, and you're playing Foden, and Rashford offers you something completely different. His directness, his confidence, his shooting. It's just tricky for defenders. And imagine if you played against Foden for a half, and you bring on Rashford for the second half, or for half an hour, it just completely changes the dynamic. It's so difficult to defend against players when you switch wingers, and it's something completely different. So I'm going to have to give Rashford an 8 out of 10, but it's only down to Southgate. He would get a higher rating for me if he was given more minutes. So for what he's done, it could be a 10 out of 10, but he hasn't played enough, in my opinion, to get a higher rating, if you know what I mean. Next, talk about Bukayo Saka, 9 out of 10 straight away. And I think he struggled in the one game against the USA, but we talked about the first game. I thought he was integral, thought he was great against Wales. I think overall he had a great tournament. I really, really like him. I just think he's absolutely great when he puts on that England shirt. So good, so direct. And to be honest, I'm not going to go on about the fouls against him against the France game, but you could see he was quite clearly, France had targeted him as one of our main men going forward, so he was just getting hacked down every single time. But he's just so good. Had a really good tournament. Really pleased for him. Next, talk about Raheem Sterling, and it's a real difficult one. I probably can't really. So I said Saka, sorry, 9 out of 10. Sterling, it's difficult to give him a rating because obviously he went high. I just completely understand, but we'll ignore that and bar that for the rest of the tournament. Probably give him a 7 out of 10. I think he had a good tournament, a solid tournament. Didn't really set the world alight. But you know what you're going to get with him. Very, very consistent. We'll talk about Callum Wilson next. Didn't really get enough minutes for me to give him a good score, but I love the fact he passed it to Grealish for that goal. So I can't really give him a rating because he didn't really get enough minutes. Southgate. What am I going to give Southgate in this tournament? I'm a rating out of 10 to finish this video. I'm disappointed with Southgate. Substitutions, things like that. And everyone can go on about how it's not his fault, but he made these decisions, and the way we set up against France, we allowed France to come on to us, and it was a bit reactionary. It's sometimes I find with this Southgate system, we wait for sides to come on to us rather than us taking it to them, because we have the players to do it. Everyone's saying, oh, we were the underdogs. Before the game, I still don't think we were. I think looking at our squad, we've got a very, very good squad, so I'm going to give Southgate a 5 out of 10 because we didn't make it past the quarters, and personally I still think we should have gone further, especially when you look at kind of the sides that are left in this tournament. So there are my ratings for this England team. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are. If you disagree, if you agree, I'm always interested and intrigued to see what you think, because I know a lot of people can disagree with me, and that is a beautiful thing about the beautiful game. But we're coming up to New Year, so please do smash the like button and do subscribe. Lots more content coming this year. Come in, check out all the TikToks, the podcast, everything. You know where. Everything will be down below in the description. But thank you for watching. Bucket Sam over and out. Lots more content coming next year. But thank you and goodbye.